Wellness, let's welcome Key Square Group founder and Trump donor, Scott Bessent. Scott, the way that Biden is being positioned is savior. Scott, that he is beloved and faithful. And we're going to hear a lot about the Biden economy and Bidenomics. And it's a fable. And it's literally spitting in the face of every American who's had to suffer this cost of living crisis, not just inflation, but these sky-high interest rates.
Yeah, no, look, I couldn't agree more. And one of the things that's really bothering me, and I think it's probably bothering a lot of Americans, is Kamala Harris says on day one, I'm going to do this. This is day 1,307 of the Harris-Biden administration. She owns this. Clearly, President Biden was non compos mentis. This is one of the greatest cover-ups of the 21st century. She was at the center of it. So if he was not running the economic program, then she was, and she owns it.
You know, we've gotten wind of some new Harris policies that are coming up. Again, Donald Trump with Congress, what I was at, we lowered the rates, corporate rates down to 21%. She's now talking about raising corporate rates up to 28%, a 33% increase. And again, we saw record economic growth when we lowered taxes. We saw more revenue come into the federal coffers when we lowered taxes. What impact does this, along with price fixing, what is it going to have on the economy?
Look, Sean, as you know, it's the private sector that drives America, and neither Vice President Harris nor Governor Walz has had a job in the private sector in their adult life. In their adult life, they have only gotten government paychecks. So they are big government. They want more big government. And as we, suck the life out of the economy through bigger government, I've seen this playbook all over the world, especially in emerging markets, and it never works out. So we need to reprivatize the economy, not have more of it. We are at a 7% deficit to GDP, the highest when we've not been in a war and not been in a recession in U.S. history. And this is out of control. They are taking us down the road to serfdom, and this is how it always starts. But the greatest thing that happened under Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump was lowering the tax rate. And it's companies who hire people. That's why you get real wage increases. The reason we haven't gotten real wage increases in the Harris-Biden economy is it's all from the government. 2/3 of the jobs created under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have been pure government jobs or government adjacent in healthcare, and those are not high-paying, dynamic jobs.
Not to go off on a tangent, but if you corporate rate in China is 25%, it's even lower in certain industries. This would take our corporate rate above even China's. I digress. But what they're trying to do is vilify businesses, the very businesses that we all work for, whether it's the price controls, vilifying businesses, all those evil grocery stores, all those evil food suppliers. And this is the same thing, all those evil companies, we need to take their money. So again, it is on the path to more socialism. That's what they're doing. They're playing the American people, Scott.
But they don't know anything else. California has the highest tax rate in America. Minnesota has the 5th highest tax rate. And both states are seeing people move out. That if somehow Harris and Walz were to get across the finish line, there is nowhere to run once you've nationalized this idea of big government and high taxes. You can't go to a red state. It becomes national. Right. And California has the highest house prices, the highest food prices in the lower 48, and the highest gasoline prices. And it's because they don't believe, California government doesn't believe in the free market.
Well, you just listen to them. They talk about the public sector all the time, how the government has to make investments to make the economy grow, as opposed to saying, let's get out of the way. Let's let the private sector do what they do best when government isn't on their backs. But I want to move to this because the Democrat Party values are completely different from when Bill Clinton won in 1992 to now with VP Harris at the top of the ticket. So forgiving student loans was unheard of back when they actually encouraged you to pay them back, the loans. Plus, in 1992, they rejected the tax and spend agenda, yet now they're telling Americans to pay your fair share. And finally, here's the kicker. They wanted the people in public office to be accountable to the people they represent, but Harris still hasn't sat down for an interview where she'd have to answer for her decades-long set of bad economic policies. So, Scott, again, you follow campaigns. I have to imagine at some point Kamala has to come out of the basement and answer questions about where her party is going, but also what vision she has for the country.
Well, Sean, we'll see. I think Vice President Harris is not a serious person. These are serious times. I think, I don't know if you two are, but I'm at least old enough to remember in 1992 when James Carville said it's the economy's stupid. Miraculously, after Bill Clinton won on November 15th, the mainstream media came out and said, oh, the economy's great. George H.W. Bush got no credit for it. I suspect we're going to get just the inverse of that here. I think the economy is falling off the cliff as we speak. And after Election Day, we are going to see how weak it really is, because this is not a good equilibrium. This government spending, high asset prices, the bottom 50% creeping up to the 60th or 70th percentile are getting killed, and this government spending is out of control. And I think Donald Trump started today talking about his solutions. I think we are going to see a more optimistic message from him. I think he's going to warn us about what Vice President Harris, who's clearly illiterate on economics and a variety of other things, that I think we're going to see from President Trump, warning us about this, but an optimistic vision of what he wants to do in Trump 2.0.
You'll see stark differences in the visions from the two candidates and the two parties. Scott Bessent, always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Good to see you.
Scott, thank you so much. And I'm banning the use of the word investment when it comes to government, because it's not an investment.
I was quoting them, Dagan. I wasn't saying it myself.
It's spending.
Don't put that evil on me.
And it's deficit spending
Democrat
when it comes
language.
to these.
I agree.
Sure.
A fist fight here.